As will be mentioned, our work has been part of the, many of you might not be aware, the City Plan 2030, which is the latest local development plan. It's been instructed by Edinburgh City Council, a land and property commercial needs study across 4 sectors: office, industrial, visitor accommodation, retail and leisure. And we, GVA, have been instructed, working with Ryden, to undertake a detailed assessment of the city's visitor accommodation sector in order to provide an evidence base to inform the city plan. So we're looking at where has the growth been, where is it now, and where it will be moving forward. So starting with hotels, because that is where the growth's been and it's where the growth will be in the future. As mentioned, over 13,000 hotel bedrooms in Edinburgh. That's roughly split evenly between the 4-star, 3-star, and the budget sector. But where has the growth been? Might not be a surprise to anyone to see that the growth since 2012 has been in the budget space. Just to give you a bit of context then, there's been 24 hotels that have opened in Edinburgh between 2012 and 2018, over 3,000 rooms. Of that 24, 16 of those have been budget hotels, or to put it in another context, 78% of all new rooms in Edinburgh since 2012 have been in the budget space. So it's been the key focus of growth in recent years. And just demonstrating some of the brands that are in the market, over half of the new bedroom stock, budget bedroom stock, has been either Premier Inn or Travelodge. Another growth area has been service apartments. There's been a number of recent openings: Edinburgh Grand and St Andrew Square, Adagio at Carlton Gate. So these provide obviously a hotel-like room offering, but with more space. And now there's 40 service apartment complexes in Edinburgh, providing over 1,500 keys. It's been a growth area, but not to the same extent as hotels. Less growth in the other accommodation sector is 15 hostels in Edinburgh, only 2 in the past 10 years. Guest houses have actually contracted, a lot of them changing to residential use. There's been a number of student accommodation developments which are available to rent in summer, and there's almost 400 self-catering properties for holiday and touring parks. Airbnb, be amiss not to mention this given the growth, and apologies to the last speaker, we've managed to get a more up-to-date stat on the number of properties. Quite sensational growth then. So in 2016, in July 2016, there were 6,300 properties listed on Airbnb to rent in Edinburgh. And in just over 2 years, that's increased 90% to 12,000 properties. And we'll just cover Airbnb later in the presentation. Moving forward then, in terms of future hotel supply, in terms of the planning pipeline, this is all hotels with planning applications. So 61 hotels, 6,338 bedrooms. Now, that's not all likely to go ahead. Some of these have been in the planning pipeline for a number of years and haven't come to fruition for a number of reasons, funding, etc. But of those 61, 10 are actually active under construction in Edinburgh, and to put it another way, that's 25% of all total future bedroom stock, or just over 1,500 bedrooms. Less growth in other areas, although service apartment, there's 7 schemes, 2 under construction. Hostels, 3 proposed, none under construction. Guest houses, 14 planning applications, but a number of those are for change of use. In terms of the reasons, or rather looking at performance, which has driven the growth in supply, and starting with hotels anyway, in terms of visitor accommodation performance, we can see almost year-on-year growth in both occupancy and the average daily rate of hotels between 2013 and 2017. A bit of a slowdown last year, which is largely put down to increasing new supply. That said, just under 83% occupancy in Edinburgh remains well above the regional UK average of 76%. Likewise, average daily rate is 40% higher than the regional UK average. In terms of the other accommodation providers, hostels, service, self-catering, keep looking at the screen, forgetting I've got one here, and guest houses, all 3 sectors have shown growth since 2015, and all of them achieving their highest occupancy in 2017. So it's not just the hotels that are seeing increasing occupancy. The reasons for growth, I won't dwell on that because I think it's quite clear. It's to do with a booming tourism sector and likewise business sector and conference sector. So as I mentioned, we've been doing some work on as part of the City Plan 2030 process, and as part of this, we've undertaken consultations with a range of stakeholders within the visitor accommodation sector, Edinburgh Airport, Hoteliers Association, Marketing Edinburgh, the Conference Centre. And in terms of the issues that we've identified, can kind of be grouped into 6 main points. So just to fly through them rather briefly, starting with value for money, and also the TVL impact. Starting with value for money then, Edinburgh is perceived as being a more expensive destination with a high cost of hotels in summer. However, that's balanced with the fact is it's not really having an impact on particular hotel occupancy levels, but may do so in the future. It's the view of some people. Likewise, TVL, varying views on that, particularly opposed obviously by hotel operators. Imbalance of budget hotels, I mentioned, obviously there's been the growth there, and there's a concern by some stakeholders that's leading to more cheap visitors rather than high-spending tourists to Edinburgh. The planning process, or the difficulty of the planning process in terms of the speed of decisions and also the ultimate decisions that are being made. And there's apprehension that some of the difficulties, the likes of the W Hotel at Edinburgh St James, and the Rosewoods have had is perceiving Edinburgh as a difficult place to achieve development and might put off future development. Short-term lets, Airbnb, generally viewed as a positive addition to the Edinburgh market, but it's driving more families to come into Edinburgh. But at the same time, there's a concern that the fact it's not certified, taxed, and regulated. Location of visitors, we've obviously mentioned about this perceived issue of overcrowding. It's where people want to be when they come to Edinburgh. They want to be in the city centre, but there's also a lack of development sites for future development moving forward. And finally, the local impact of Brexit, which is largely around the supply of labour and the reliance on EU migrant labour, and the uncertainty of where we go from here. As part of our work, we've undertaken a survey with some leading, largely hotel brands and operators to see what their perception is of Edinburgh. 19 responses received, 9 of which currently brand or operate in Edinburgh. Experience of operating has been positive to date, but getting to the point of being open has been an issue. So going back to the issue of planning. 89%, the vast majority, would consider branding operating further accommodation or new accommodation in Edinburgh. And 94% consider the city centre to be very attractive development, by far the area they're keen on the most. Asking them what are the barriers that may stop them from developing in Edinburgh moving forward, in order, the availability of sites is the key one, followed by the ability to achieve appropriate returns and the planning process. We carried out a similar survey with some leading hotel developers and owners. 15 responses received, 10 of which have developed in Edinburgh previously. Positive to date in terms of when they've been open, in terms of the demand, but the planning process was considered a key issue in getting to that point. All of them, all 15, would consider developing in Edinburgh in the future, so there's positive demand moving forward. And while the city centre was by far the most popular, developers would consider more outlying areas such as West Edinburgh, i.e. out to the airport. In terms of barriers moving forward, the availability of sites, again, number one, followed by land values and achieving appropriate returns. So just to surmise, looking at future supply and recent opening, it's clear that the 2 growth areas have been hotels followed by service apartments. And market performance is very strong, which has resulted in considerable growth in the sector historically, and future demand prospects are also positive. Our developer survey indicated a strong brand operator and developer interest in Edinburgh moving forward. However, the lack of available development sites were identified as a key concern by both groups. And the other issues identified could become impediments to growth. Consideration, therefore, would need, in terms of the issue of available sites, would need to be given to the creation of new zones suitable for visitor accommodation with relevant transfer infrastructure and demand drivers, i.e. the developments cannot occur in isolation. And very finally, as it tells me my time is up, a final point is City Plan 2030. Now, Edinburgh Council are very keen to encourage involvement in the process of City Plan, which is due for adoption in May 2021. There's a couple of links on the slides which I believe will be circulated, so please do get involved. And that's it. Thank you very much.